we have to either swim in, or if you can't swim, at least bring your floaties with you, because you don't never know how we're going to get out of here. And so, but thank you for coming. We've had some awesome attendance in the last several Wednesday nights. And let me just tell you, I'm excited. I'm beyond excited about some of the things that we have planned for the balance of this year. And as we turn the corner, God is going to do some great and awesome things. And so I need you to be here Sunday. This coming Sunday, we're going to be talking about the importance and the power of community. And so it is important for us to have community among believers. We'll get deeper into that on Sunday. But tonight, I want to talk with you about another trait of great men and women of God. We've looked at so many things. Last week, we talked about adaptability. That being able to roll with the punches. That be able to hold your head up when things really go south and things are bad. And we learned that if you can roll with the punches, that you're going to be able to make it. But if it has to be my way or the highway, or I'm just going to flip over and, play dead or go home, then that's probably what will happen. But tonight I want to go a different route, and I want to talk with you about the need we have for wisdom. Now, wisdom is priceless. Let me, if I may, I want to just read you a few scriptures. The Bible tells us in Psalm 90 and 12, Lord, teach us to number our days that we may apply our hearts unto wisdom. And then in 111th Psalm, in the 10th verse, he says, the fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom, and a good understanding have all they that do his commandments. His praise endures forever. And then if we could jump over to Proverbs chapter number 1, I want to read about 7 verses of scripture here. And he says, the Proverbs of Solomon, the son of David, the king of Israel, to know wisdom and instruction, to perceive the words of understanding, to receive the instruction of wisdom, justice and judgment and equity, to give subtlety to the simple, to the young man knowledge and discretion. A wise man will hear and will increase learning, and a man of understanding shall attain unto wise counsels. To understand a proverb, this is King James here, to understand a proverb and interpretation, the words of the wise and their dark sayings. I've intermingled some of the NIV right there, but what he says to us in Proverbs 4 and 5 is, get wisdom and get understanding, and do not forget my words or turn away from them. So wisdom is so important. I've done a study or done a search throughout the whole Bible when it comes to wisdom, and we just didn't have time tonight to deal with all of it. But wisdom is extremely important. Someone said that wisdom is kind of like, there's so many things right here going on around us. In fact, y'all saw them launch the rocket this past week, and spaceport and all this stuff's coming, and Camden's fixing to really hit the map, and we're excited about that, and I'm glad there's people coming, and we need people that are lost to get saved and all that good stuff. And so here's what will happen. Land prices will go up. Y'all hearing me? Building prices will go up and all that. But let me give you the illustration of this. I don't care what happens around me, what happens around you, the place whereon we stand right then. If we were to walk right outside right now, that property you stand on right there, it is solid ground, although it might be wet. It's solid ground. And wisdom is, or rather, that is a representation of wisdom. Everything else around, houses go up, houses go down. Buildings start and fall. Businesses open and close. This rises and falls. Forests grow and are stripped, and on and on, but wisdom remains. And so if we can get wisdom, while everything that's turbulent around us, everything changes, the stock market rises and it falls. Kings rise and fall. Things happen and all of this, But if we gain wisdom, wisdom is that solid ground that is reliable and unchanging commodity that undergirds our life, if you will, and gives life meaning. Wisdom has the ability to endure. And without wisdom, we cannot accomplish anything of lasting value. Someone says, well, wait a minute, tell me a little bit. Wisdom is one of the 9 gifts of the Spirit. Did you know that? Tongues, interpretation, right? Prophecy, faith, healing, miracles. A word of wisdom, a word of knowledge. What is the difference in wisdom and knowledge? Knowledge is power. Knowledge is the know-how. Wisdom is kind of like the know-when. Amen? You might know how to throw a football 80 yards. You know, if you're Brett Favre or something like that. You might know how, but it really doesn't matter if you don't know when. Timing is everything. Huh? Pressure's coming from both sides. Man, you're staring these guys in the eyes and, out of your mind, and you're on the run, and all of a sudden, but at the right time, at the right moment. So wisdom is knowing how to use the knowledge you have. The problem is, so many of us already know it all. Are y'all with me? We're in bad shape if we know it all. I heard a story of an 8-year-old little boy. He was in 2nd grade, and he raised his hand, and his teacher called on little Johnny, and she said, what is it, little Johnny? What would you like to ask? And he said, what is it that I learned today? And she says, well, Johnny, that's kind of an odd question. Why would you ask such a question? He said, well, because that's what Mama's going to ask me when I get home. He understood that he needed to be able to tell her something that he learned today, because what he learned yesterday wasn't enough. What he learned last week wasn't enough. Mama's going to expect him to know something that he learned today. He learned that life is an ongoing and ever-growing process. You see, because we will grow physically just because we eat food and drink water. I mean, given, that we're healthy and so forth, we're going to grow. Our body's going to grow. But so we don't really have to be intentional about that. Some of us have grown a little taller and a little wider than we'd like to. Are y'all with me? I'm just sort of scanning. I'm not looking at anybody in particular. Just sort of like a radar. But the fact of the matter is, unlike physical growth, our mental capacity is dependent upon something else. Now, when you were little, well, just like right now, we just experienced this last week. Our kids or grandkids, for some of us it was grandkids, they went to school and they were cheery. Some of them, all of ours was the first day, and then the second day was not so happy, and then the third day they cried. Micah come home the second day, and his mom asked him, said, how was school? And he said, it was brutal. How's it brutal in kindergarten? I don't know. But here's the thing. He cried, but the next day, Chelsea took him to class, and he cried that morning, but he was good to go that evening. The next day, so what I'm saying is this. Mamas and daddies and grandparents, even though they cried, we're responsible for their education, so we take them anyway. And we might turn away and cry too. Huh? I remember those days. But the thing is, we were responsible for their education. And we took them and we made them go because they needed to learn how to add and subtract, and they needed to learn how to write, and they needed to learn how to reason and think critically and all these things. We needed to equip them. We didn't want to raise an idiot. So we made them go to school. Or we homeschooled them, whatever else alternative you might have. But nonetheless, once we become an adult, we are now responsible for our own growth mentally. And some of us checked out just as soon as we got that diploma. Amen? We got that diploma, and some of us it was the GED, and some of us it was just the good enough. I don't know. Well, and I'm not knocking that, but so many times people have just checked out, and they say, well, I don't need no more learning now. I left Camden High a long time ago. or whatever high school you went to. But the fact of the matter is, you've got to be intentional unless you are consciously making an effort to grow in knowledge and wisdom and in the application of what you know. Some of you know a whole lot. You just don't know how to use what you got. Hello? It's kind of like, for instance, you just love buying tools. And you got a garage full of tools. Man, you got torque wrenches, you got gear pullers, you've got dent pullers. Man, you've got ring pliers and don't know how to use one set of nothing. Hello? You got all kind of equipment, don't know how to use none of it. Some of you got all kind of fishing equipment, don't know how to use none of it. Are you with me? So what I'm saying is whatever it is that you want to learn, you've got to apply yourself to understand how to use it. If you buy a new saw, I would suggest reading the owner's manual and get familiar with how it works and the dangers and the kickbacks and how it's going to run. And likewise, if it's a new vehicle or a new gun, maybe. I don't know. So whatever it is that you're doing, what I'm saying is this. You have to learn something. You can't say, well, I learned it all way back then. I remember Glenn told his daughter, Stephanie, said, well, why don't you just go ahead and write a book, because she's about 18, she knew everything. I saw somebody the other day, there was a man had a shirt. He said, I don't even need Google. My wife knows everything. So anyway, but if you were to Google the wisest man on the earth, I ain't going to pop up. Probably somebody like Solomon. King Solomon, they said he was the wisest man in all the earth. Now, I don't know about that. I mean, 700 wives, I don't know how much wisdom's in that. But are y'all hearing me? Brothers, I just need you to give me some assent right here that... Anyway, now, I better quit. I'm going to go on. But Solomon knew that today's efforts of gathering wisdom, because he wrote the Proverbs. He wrote the importance of how wisdom is like rubies. Gather that wisdom in. He talked about understanding and enlightenment, how we need to. He talked about how knowledge is power. And I'm going to talk about that in just a moment a little bit deeper. Today's wisdom and knowledge will bring tomorrow's success. Wisdom is that immovable rock. It's a foundation. If you've got some wisdom, man, you're going to go a long way in life. I wish I could tell you that everything's going to be automatic, kind of like growing. That we're just going to grow, and your body. They measure our kids. They go for their 6-month checkup, and they measure their limbs and their weight. And then they go for a year and 2 and 3 and whatever, and they're making sure they're progressing along. And then in the school system, we're making sure that they're moving along mentally. And then, like I said, when we get out of school, then it's all up to us, and some of us just don't care no more. And if you don't have any interest in moving yourself forward, you're in real trouble. I can just tell you this: you can believe, you can have faith in God, you can have faith in yourself. Passionately, you could work, all of those things, but until you decide to do something, then you'll just be right there. Faith is a vital prerequisite. We can do anything in the world we want to do if we get ourselves in gear to learn about what we want to do. I'm going to make some sense out of this in just a moment. Suppose you have an idea that I'm going to be a great builder one day. Well, then I would suggest finding a great builder. I would suggest start looking at his website. I would suggest going out, hanging out with a great builder, and just see if you could sort of move lumber or do something just to watch a great builder in action. Start watching YouTube videos. And that's some great technology that's come along, isn't it? Do whatever it is to hang out with that person that can do well what you want to do. That's wisdom. And then along the way, you can watch them and gain from what they're doing. But if you just feel like you know it all. You've seen somebody that overstated their ability. Don't look around nobody, just look straight ahead. But they overstated their ability and man, I can do this, I can do that and the other, and they make a mess out of everything they put their hand to. You got to be willing to go on. So listen, think about it this way. If you want tomorrow to look different than today, you got to do something different today so tomorrow will be better. Because if not, you won't have no tomorrow. You'll just have an extension of today. let me help you. So, let's say you want to, what I'm saying, my passion right now is getting out of debt. How am I going to do that? Well, talk to somebody that's got out. Hang out with somebody that is frugal with their money. Hang out with somebody, watch some videos with some people that are doing it. It amazes me how we oftentimes want to do something, but we hang out with people that can't, they don't have the foggiest idea. Hello? You say, well, I want to be a surgeon. You can't hang out with drunks. You got to learn how to be a surgeon. Amen? You say, well, I want to be a great archery man. Well, you can't hang out with a rifleman. You got to hang out with somebody that does what you're interested in doing. So, if you want to learn how to get out of debt, you got to hang out with Dave Ramsey. Or you got to hang out with somebody that has done it. Don't go to the person that's been bankrupt 14 times to try to get you out of debt. Amen? That ain't going to work. That would be like going to a 600-pound man to find out how to lose 30 pounds. Obviously, he ain't doing nothing right. Amen? So, John Wooden said this. He was the great basketball coach, won many national championships. He said, if I'm through learning, I'm through. Did you know you can teach an old dog new tricks? Isn't that right, Brother Earl? I remember my dear friend, Brother Wayne, man, he had a certain way about doing things. Brother Wayne Horn, some of y'all remember Brother Wayne. We used to work on cars together a lot. And we had a wonderful time together, and he was set in his ways, man, and man, you wasn't going to hardly change his mind. But every now and then I would override him. And if I could do it fast enough before he could get down there to, have me do it a different way, if I could do it fast enough, I could prove to him that there was a new and improved way. And we'd always rag each other about that. But you see, when it comes to doing something, once you admit there's something that you want to learn, you've got to find out how. And the only way you find out how is to be able to dig in and go for it. We got a lot of aspiring young preachers in the congregation. You know what you got to do? You got to hang out with some preachers. You know what you got to do? You got to listen to hundreds of messages, hopefully decent ones. Amen. You want to learn how to administrate a school or a church, you got to hang out with somebody that's doing it right. Amen. That's why we're constantly looking, we're constantly looking for some conference for somebody who's doing it better than we're doing it. Why? Because I don't need to talk to somebody that's running 100. We passed that mark. But I need to talk to somebody that's doing a little bit more than what we are. Listen, if you're a 7 in whatever it is, maybe you're a carpenter, and on a scale of 1 to 10, you consider yourself a 7. You don't need to be hanging out with 5s. You know why? Because you're going to do things that 5s do. You need to be hanging out with an 8 or a 9 so you can learn some better technique at doing something. I know it's a challenge, but let's move on. So the wonderful thing about acquiring knowledge is that it's power. It was amazing to me, though, is people spend $200,000 or $300,000 on their home. I was riding through St. Mary's the other day on a golf cart. Kelly said, "Oh, that house right there is for sale. Reach up and grab one of them flyers in that little case and see what they want for it." I like to fell out the golf cart. $450,000. I said, "Man, put this thing back. I'm trying to get out of debt." Amen. I can keep on living in the ghetto a little while or something, but anyway, You see, but we'll pay $200,000, $300,000, $400,000 for a house. We'll drive a $60,000 car and have a $200 library. It got quiet. In other words, we don't really value learning. Did you know 15 minutes a day to really get good at something that you aspire to be good at? If you take 15 minutes and truly focus 15 minutes on whatever it is that you really want to get good at, that you can do it. But for the most part, we won't spend nothing on knowledge. We just get another toy. The acquisition of knowledge doesn't take a lot of time, but if we'll focus that time, that temporary ignorance we've got will turn into knowledge, and knowledge is power. And you see, John Wooden said something else. He said, it's what you learn after you know it all that counts. It's what you learn after you know it all that counts. See, there's a time when we were made to learn things, and now you got to want to learn things. And here's the reality is knowledge and wisdom brings with it power. It brings with it prestige. It brings with it other things that we just can't figure out. Let me give you an example. Dave Martin, a great entrepreneur, great speaker, pastor's coach, he said years ago when the personal computers first come out, he said, my computer tore up. My personal computer tore up, and I'm a writer, and I had to get it fixed. He said, so I took it to a computer shop. And he said, literally, he said, I know good and well it wasn't 10 minutes. And they called me back to the desk and said, that'll be $300. He said, my Lord, can you just tell me what in the world you did for $300? And we're talking a long time ago. $300. Of course, back then you might have spent, I don't know, they used to be real high. He said, but for $300, and he said, could you just write me an invoice and sort of just write down, number one, I did this, number two. And the guy said, that's no problem at all. And he wrote down, true story, he wrote down, I turned a screw 3/4 of a turn, 50 cents. Next line, he said, knowing which screw to turn, $299.50. Hello? Knowledge is power. Man, Dave could have just turned the screw, but there's a million of them in there. He had no idea. And let me say this. I do some mechanical work. I do some carpenter work. I'm a skydiving instructor. I'm a pastor. There's some things that I have some knowledge about. And knowledge is power. If someone comes to me and they got this terrible noise, in fact, I'm the world's, me and Kelly walk every morning 3 or 4 miles, and I'm walking, and I can say, that car right there is on his last leg. I can tell you that. You know why? It comes by, I hear it rattling, it's smoking like crazy. This morning, one pulled up to the stop sign, all the squealing. I could hear the rivets as they were grinding into the rotors on the front end. That guy needs a brake job. Now, that guy might be willing to pay me $140 to do that brake job because he don't know how. Hello? If you don't know, you don't know. And I can't tell you the times people have gone to places and, man, it's like that $300. 50 cents to turn that screw, but $299.50 to know which one to turn. So in all of your get knowledge. People in life don't know, they don't know what to do, and so they're willing to pay for somebody that knows what to do. You got to have wisdom. Knowledge is power, and wisdom is the application of that power. You see, wisdom, therefore, is really more than just a thing. Wisdom is an action. Wisdom is the pursuit of wisdom is the deliberate application of what we learn. That's what I like about our Leadership Academy. It's going to launch on October the 2nd. I'm excited about that because not only are we going to learn some things where we gain knowledge, We're going to gain knowledge about what it is to be a leader. We're going to gain knowledge about the DNA of the Harbor Worship Center and how we do things around here. But then, we're going to use some wisdom, and we're going to apply practically that knowledge that we learned. See, that's the part people didn't really like, because you sat in class and you learned how to do algebra or geometry or trigonometry, whatever it was, English, you know, subject and verb, conjugation, and all that stuff, and you got all that, and you said, that sounds good. And then the teacher said, take out your notebook. I'm about to test you to see if you can actually apply in a paragraph what I just showed you on the board. And you know, no, just take my word. I got that. Right? No, don't make me do the Pythagorean theorem, or don't make me work this problem out. I just take my word, I got it. And they don't have it. So, anyway, wisdom is more than just a thing, it's actually an action. And here's what the Bible says. James said, be ye doers of the word and not hearers only. In fact, James asked a rhetorical question in chapter 1. I believe it's around verse 22. He says, what person looks into a mirror and then walks away and ignores what he sees? He said, he's implying that no sane person would look into a mirror, and let's talk about outside aesthetics right now, okay? Let's just say that we had a house slam packed. It's on a Sunday morning. The state overseer's seated right over here. The general overseer's right beside him. And man, I really need to make a good impression. And I got that long, full-length mirror in my office. And I go over to that mirror and I look, and one of the buttons on my shirt is unbuttoned, and my tie's kind of cocked, if I got one on. Anyway, and I look at that and I just say, it's all good. What fool would walk out the door knowing he's all out of sorts? Or what lady would realize her makeup is all smeared down the side of her face? No, man, she's going to clean that up real quick and doll it all up and get it right. Huh? If you come out here and your clothes was out of sorts, or you had toilet paper on your shoe, hello? Who would look in a mirror and say, it's all good? Walk on out here in front of 500 people and look like a fool. No sane person would do that. Huh? He's not talking about outside aesthetics. He's not talking about your hair being out of place, or your tie, or your dress, or your belt, or your shoes. He's talking about things inside. He's talking about how is it that we can look at our life and know we're missing in some areas and not do anything about it? How is it that you see, because you can do whatever you want to do. You can. The only person stopping you is the person in the mirror. You say, I want to do this, I want to do that. You can do it if you want to. If you want to bad enough. But it's going to take discipline. I want to be a nurse. You can be a nurse. I want to be a teacher. You can be a teacher. But it's going to take discipline. So, wisdom is nothing more and nothing less than the accumulation of knowledge and then the application of that knowledge. Learning what all these things, see, because you can learn everything there is to learn, but if you don't ever do it, it's not going to amount to much. I could study preachers. I could read sermons. I could write sermons. I could study homiletics and hermeneutics and all of those 50-cent words. And it doesn't matter if I don't ever walk to the pulpit and actually preach. It doesn't matter if I don't actually do a funeral or a wedding or what. It doesn't matter if I don't do a dedication, or at some point you've got to apply what you learn. And let me say this, if you're waiting on the perfect day to do it, remember this, several weeks ago we talked about courage. And courage equals action, and the assassin of courage is procrastination. Hello, I will do it tomorrow. I will do it tomorrow. I will do it tomorrow. The assassin of courage, the assassin of action is putting off till tomorrow what you could do today. Yeah, let me give you another illustration. Right now, in the season that we're in, it rains every day. Hello? So if you're going to cut your grass, and you want to get it cut, like for instance around here, we try to cut the grass on Thursday because it might rain on Friday and Saturday. We give ourselves, so if it just comes a deluge on Thursday, which it does every Thursday now, but then you give yourself that Friday or that Saturday opportunity. But if you mess around and wait till Saturday and it comes a deluge on Saturday, guess what? Sunday will be here and the grass will look like this. Likewise, you have to look at things and prepare and plan so that you can get it right. Now, let me see if I got something else. Many of our problems could be solved if we would simply use wisdom. Sometimes we think we have a money problem. We don't really have a money problem. We have a wisdom problem. We need to ask the Lord to make me wise about what I do with money. Many times we don't have a marriage problem. We have a wisdom problem. Lord, give me wisdom in talking to my husband or my wife. Lord, give me wisdom in dealing with this marriage. We don't have a marriage problem. We got a wisdom problem. We're not willing to learn anything else because maybe we thought we knew it all. And maybe we think we have a leadership problem. It might not be a leadership problem. It might be a wisdom problem. See, because there's two things here. You have to learn it, and then you have to learn when to apply it. So, wisdom is the foundation beneath that we stand upon. So, we don't never walk around and talk about wisdom, though. You know, if you ever gone somewhere, maybe you went to a party or something, nobody says, hey, let's step out here in the foyer and talk about wisdom. Nobody ever talks about, man, let's just talk about wisdom. How can we learn something more? No, man, people take a break at work, going hunting. They're going to talk about the fishing trip. They're going to talk about whatever the hobby or whatever endeavor. Nobody talks about, well, let's gain some more wisdom. That's work. But again, we got to understand the people that are excelling, the people that are making it are the ones that have learned some things and learned when to apply them. A man that devotes himself to wisdom or the passionate pursuit of wisdom, it is a proven fact, will achieve more in his life and accumulate more in his life and prosper more in his life than those who feel like I just know it all and this is the hand I'm dealt. By the way, it's really not the hand that you're dealt. It's how you deal with the hand you've been dealt. That's really what life is about. It's not what happens to us, it's how we deal with what's happened to us. So, you can do anything you want to do. I would suggest that all of us want our children to grow up and be successful. We want them to get good jobs. We want them to accumulate wisdom. We want them to do all these things. So you know what we do? I mean, we want them to be good parents. So we give them the best head start that we can. We try our best to help them to attain knowledge and to attain all these things. And I would say this, if we want our businesses to thrive, we need, what is your business? I don't know what it is, but you need to be on the cutting edge. We got several business owners, a lot of them actually, in the church. A couple of beauty salons. Brenda works at one, and constantly trying to learn the latest technique. It takes a lot to cut my hair, man. You got to really know your technique to get mine right. No, but I'm saying it's nothing for Jill to have, these ladies go to wherever, to Tampa, to Orlando, to New York, or whatever, to learn different styles and different cuts and so on and so forth. Likewise, somebody that maybe you sell equipment of some sort, tractors or lawnmowers or whatever, you know what you got to understand? You got to understand that equipment. You got to be able to talk about that. You got to have the wisdom to not just know about it, but how does it actually apply? So, he said it right there in the scripture. Gain wisdom. Gain knowledge. Get all you can. And I know sometimes knowledge is a little bit expensive, but really and truly it don't have to be a 4-year degree. It don't have to be an 8-year degree. There's little things that you can do. I heard a story, and I'm going to close with this. I heard a guy that said he had a meeting as an executive, had a real important meeting, and he needed to get to this meeting because it was one of those meetings that you didn't want to be late for. It was a key meeting. And didn't mean to use a pun here, but he reached in his pocket and he said, "Where's my keys?" He did not have his keys with him. And he said, "Oh, my goodness, what am I going to do?" So he called his wife and said, "Have you seen the keys to my car?" Well, she don't have the keys. Later on, it turns out the key, I mean, it's too late now to get a rental car. All of the things that, you know, all he needed was a stinking key. He just didn't know where the key was. Come to find out it was in his wife's pocketbook. He probably needed marriage counseling after that. But nonetheless, I said that to say this. What is the one little key, the one key, that if you had that key, it would make a difference in your life? All he needed, he didn't need his whole key ring. He might have had a jailer's key ring. He didn't need all of them. He just needed the one that would start his car. And likewise for us, you don't need keys to everything, but what is the one key that if you could just have that one, it would fix a lot of things in your life? I'll say this. I'll bet you if you could gain wisdom. Like I said, so many times we don't have necessarily a money problem. We probably have a wisdom problem, or a marriage problem, or a leadership problem, or a problem at work. But lots of times we've not yet gained the knowledge. Knowledge is power. And then the wisdom, how to use that knowledge and when to use that knowledge. Stand with me. One of the greatest things we can do is to gain wisdom. Remember what I said. You could become an expert in almost anything you wanted to do in just a few years with 15 minutes a day focused on that. Here's what I know about leadership. If you're going to be a great leader, you're going to have to read a lot. You are. You're going to have to learn from some great people. You're going to have to. So whatever it is, the field that you're in, I don't know what it is. But if you want to get better, you're going to have to look at better models. You're going to have to look at better patterns. Find the latest wisdom, the greatest knowledge, and grab onto that, and you'll find yourself climbing. Father, we love you. I pray for wisdom tonight. I pray that we would grab hold of that wisdom, that we'd fill ourselves with knowledge, and then have the wisdom to use that knowledge at the right time, the right place. Lord, I pray these things in your name. Amen and amen. God bless you. Remember, brothers, if you want to be here tomorrow night for the prison ministry, 7 o'clock.